Welcome back to Breaking Bowling. This week, we're going to discuss, are your friends real? We'll find out after I hit this music. Joining me this week is Dr. Kymberli Boynton. Kymberli, welcome back to my podcast.
Well, thank you for having me back, Tim. I love doing this with you.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I'm excited about this topic because for the recording right now, it's the holidays. We have a couple weeks till Christmas, and I want to talk about, should I get that friend a Christmas gift or not? Is that friend a real friend? How do I know I have a fake friend? So hopefully I can pick your therapist advice and we can discover that.
Well, I'm going to be real about this. Like, I'm still trying to figure out my own fake friends. So, and it's funny that we're talking about this. I just had a patient right before this, and he's a high schooler. And so I asked him. I said, "What are your biggest challenges right now?" And he said that it's frustrating for him because this generation of the Gen Zers are trying to declare independence, and although he wants this relationship, he's trying to establish his own independence as a senior in high school. And so he said what his biggest struggle is he's been investing, his high school years and middle school and elementary school years and all these friends, but then is now starting to realize like he's not reciprocating the same things. And so he said he ended up cutting off, a bunch of friends because of the fact that they were coming off as like, fake friends, like they weren't, really there. And I've been hearing that a lot. And it's funny, like over the last couple weeks, and they're from my teenagers that are saying they're cutting their friends off, because they're not getting something from it. So I tell them, like, and let's think about this. If you have a circle of friends, these circle of friends are you have to go around the room and say, hey, am I getting something back in return for this friendship? Because this is my friend circle. But if you're not, then it's really not a circle, it's a cage.
What are the red flags that these teenagers see in their so-called friends?
And that's a good question. I don't think I've ever, to be honest, I'll be really honest. Like, I don't think I've even asked them that question. I think it's just because, well, let me take that back. I'm sorry. Um, one of the one of the teenagers had told me because he was in a relationship with this girl, and when you have this friendship, like at first they're all supportive of it, and you guys are all hanging out together, but then at some point it turned to where it's like, you have this bro romance thing going on in school, right? So you've got like your bros you go out and do things with, and then all of a sudden you jump into a relationship and now your time gets taken away from. So the guys are like, well, wait a minute. Now all of a sudden they've turned and they're like, yeah, she's not good for you. And then they start talking about, the relationship that you're with. And it's not because they don't really necessarily like the girl. It's maybe because of the fact that they're missing their bro. Like they don't get to hang out with them. They're not playing video games anymore because our bro over here wants to go, hang out at the mall and do girly shopping stuff with them, or whatever. So that's what I got from this teenager was the fact that they weren't supportive of his relationship anymore. And it was that jealousy thing. And I think it really comes down to either a jealousy thing or and I think you said this. We had a conversation, a couple of weeks ago about um, fake friends and about how people want to hear all your issues and troubles and problems and things like that, but they don't want to hear your success. And so it goes back to a jealousy thing where, you know, i- if you're happy and they're not, then they don't support you in that.
Yeah, I think jealousy of friends doesn't necessarily mean that they're fake friends. Friends are going to get jealous no matter, not, I should
True.
say no matter what, but you're going to have friends who get jealous, but over time they get over it. But I did have this one, which I thought was my friend. We would talk over the phone multiple times. A lot of times he would call me and he would just want to, bitch about something. But I would listen to him, offer my advice. And then he got this new position and he started his new business. And then one day he told me on the phone, well, Tim, I really need to focus on my clients and who I spend time with. So I don't have that much time to talk to you anymore. And we've been like talking back and forth on a regular basis for like over a year. I'm like, oh, I thought we were friends. So what was I don't even know. I was just taken back. So I just stepped back, stopped communicating with this person, and like that. It was just so weird, and that's just happened to me like maybe I don't know a year ago. So it was very very fresh.
Well, I think a lot of people, especially during the holiday time, like you said it in, in the beginning, like, do I buy this person a present? How close of a friend are they? Kind of a thing. I think right now in the holiday season, I see it a lot. People start evaluating relationships, not just friendships, but this, like I said, this whole last couple of weeks, a lot of my patients have been talking about, friends. It's not even about a relationship. They've been doing a lot of evaluation, and a lot of it is because if you think about it, we're going into a new year. So it's always the end of the year when, we put time frames on things. We start looking back. So the holiday times why people get depressed and everything is because they are reminiscing over this whole year. Did I accomplish anything? Who did I gain? Who did I lose? So it's always a reflection towards the end of the year, and setting up your new year goals. So that comes with evaluating the people in your life, where sometimes it could be a significant other we're with, or a friend that we've been kind of pulling the weight. Especially one of my ones that I had yesterday was saying that she's tired of doing this same routine with this friend. So this friend has been her friend since elementary school. They're adults now, like into their 40s, but they had this thing where they were going to do every month a wine and cheese night. And so this has been happening where now she's reevaluating her life because she's single now. And now she wants to go out and do other things. And she's outgrown the wine and cheese night. And so when she brought it up to her friend, like, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to go out. Like, let's go do something. And the friend was like, well, I don't want to do that. So now they're at this crossroads on, well, she doesn't want to do this. I don't want to do this. So what do we do? And I said, well, you have to come to some kind of compromise. Maybe find out why she doesn't want to do it. Maybe there's something else you guys can do. But I think it's just the end of the year kind of thing where, we reevaluate our lives and, like I said, our goals of what we've accomplished over the year. And I do that myself. But to really find out, like, is your friend fake or not? I think that changes, to be honest, because I had a best friend and she was my best friend. And I was there for her through her divorce, helped her raise her daughter, as a single mom, like years of this. The minute she got with a guy who was like 10, 15 years younger than her, it was like, I don't even know you anymore. Like she reverted like she was this high school kid. And then in the end, she stabbed me in the back for what? For this guy that you've known for like maybe like less than a year. And we've been best friends this whole time. And then now this guy, everything I told her, like, hey, you really need to reevaluate this relationship. And now the guy did the same thing to her, cheated on her, is gone. And like not even in her life anymore. And now we're not friends anymore. So it's like you gave up our best friendship, stabbed me in the back for some guy, and now what? Now you lost your best friend. So I don't think there really is ever a point where we see, red flags, or we see like, right, we could be friends with them for so long and then all of a sudden something just happens. So it just depends on the circumstances. But trying to pinpoint, who your fake friends really are, I mean, kind of goes, it has its seasons, that you go through. And everybody goes through seasons of friendships. It's just really looking at the red flags. It's like a relationship. We see the red flags, but why is it that it's okay when we're driving down the freeway and we see these cones in the street? Nobody plows through those cones and says, hey, I'm going to ignore it and go through it and then end up in a ditch. But in our lives as humans, we see these red flags and we choose to either justify why we're going to accept these red flags and not go around them. So it's the same thing, friendship, relationship wise, everything changes. So
Is there a way to identify if you're being used by a friend?
oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're giving more to this friendship and you're not reciprocating the same kind of benefits, then it's a one-way street. Perfect example. If you're going out with a friend and you guys, I don't care if you've been friends for 1 week or 1 year or however long it is. If you're constantly going out and you're paying for everything, this person's never offering to even leave a tip or whatever, and you're seeing that's a one-way street, then are they really along for your friend, or are they really along for what you've been providing for them?
No,
Um,
that's kinda sounds like my wife when she was younger. I pay for everything. I pay she didn't pay for a damn thing.
well, it's different. I mean, come on. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I know,
a
I
certain
got you.
point, but for me, like being in the industry, what I've noticed is I've had friends that ride my coattails because of what I'm doing or where I'm going. Like, oh, she's going to the red carpets. Oh, she's meeting this person. Oh, she's meeting that. And all of a sudden, like people were coming out of the woodworks wanting to be my friends, wanting to come to my birthday. I'll be honest, like my birthday party, there was like 2, 3 years ago, there was friends that came out that I have not seen in like forever, but yet we're on social media together. I've invited them to other things before and they don't show up. And all of a sudden, because I had this big birthday party with paparazzis and cameras and lights and red carpets and things like that, I was so overwhelmed when I walked in and saw these people that I'm like, oh, hi, like, wow, what are you doing here? I mean, yeah, obviously I invited him, but I invite you to every other thing and you didn't show up for any of these things. So I notice it more, being where I'm at and what I'm doing in my life, that, who's really there. And eventually they kind of fade out, but it's funny to see when you have a big, huge event, that consists of things, that, you're going to get, caught in the public eye with, they show up for it. But, if I just have like a birthday party or something like that in my backyard, like I'm not going to be here. So,
Yeah, my biggest issue as an entrepreneur is finding friends. One is coaches. You find these business coaches. They will message you randomly off of Facebook. And one time I just got sick of it. I called them out on a martial arts page that I'm a group that I'm a part of. And because I was just sick of it, but they come at you like they're so caring about your business, and they're just trying to take my money, and they could give a crap if my business succeeds or not. They just want my money, and they'll come back at you saying, "Well, you didn't do exactly what I told you to do." It's always my fault, never their coaching fault. Or you get the coaches who are very good, they seem to care about you, and you've been with them for a while, and all of a sudden you can't afford them anymore. Or, they've taught you enough that you don't need them anymore. Then they just ghost you. They
yeah,
disappear, and I hate that. It's like, why does that have to be? But I believe that some people, they believe their friends. I feel like they need to get something more out of them, and it has to be like money. Like it feels like for an entrepreneur, it has to be money. If I don't give you money, you're not my friend. And that could just be a boundary that I probably sometimes I overstep because I really care for a lot of people, and I have boundaries in which because I'm really good at graphic arts, but I didn't want to work for your magazine just because I like our friendship. I want to keep
yeah,
that friendship. I
right.
don't want to. I don't want to overstep that boundary because if you when you hire friends, that's friends or family. I was always told never hire friends or family because if something happens and you're the boss, you have that task to let them go, and then you're possibly going to ruin a friendship. So it's like, I
Yeah.
got you
And
got to
I've
stop with that.
totally been through that so many times that, it's so true. It is true. But at the same time, for me, and everybody thinks that I have all these friends. So I figured out who my friends were when I had to move 2 months ago. And so I'm sitting here like stressing out because, we had this big water pipe burst in our house and we lost our house. So within a matter of like 48 hours, we're having to find a new place to move to, which took us about almost 2.5, 3 months to move. So I figured out who my friends were on moving day when I've got this huge house that has to be moved. And there was nobody except for maybe a couple people that were offering their services to help. And I remember being really upset. Now I think I was talking to my sister about it. And I'm like, I'm stressed out. I'm like, it took us a good month and a half, 2 months, like I said, to move from one house to the next. And so my sister's like, well, what is taking so long? I'm like, because we have no help. And she's like, what do you mean you have no help? You have a ton of friends. I'm like, No, I have a ton of people I'm around. I have a ton of acquaintances. I have friends in the industry. I have friends, over here. I have friends like in different categories, but I don't have friends that are real friends because if they were, they'd be here helping me move and I don't have that. So it really made me take a step back and see like really who my friends are. And you know this, like I've been reevaluating my new circle because it's true. Like I had to take that step back because I felt like I was in the cage looking out and my friends weren't doing what I needed from they weren't there for me. And fake friends, another way to identify that too is if, you know, they only come to you when they need advice. Like for me being a therapist, I have all the fake friends because nobody will talk to me until all of a sudden something goes wrong and hey, I need your advice. And I'm like, okay, hey, hi, how are you? Like, haven't seen you in a long time. Oh, yeah, no, I've been good. How are you? Good. Okay, so anyway, so here's my situation. And I'm like, I'm not even charging you for this, kind of a thing. And my business partner, my colleague, she's a FNP, and she told me, she said, Kim, she said, you gotta stop doing that. She said that she was giving medical advice, to all her friends and her family and everything. She goes, but think about this. And it wasn't until she said this it made sense. She said, I'm up late at night taking phone calls. My family's telling me, hey, I got this something wrong, and they're sending me pictures of this, and she's telling them exactly what's wrong with them and what they need to do. She said, so she's telling them this, but she said, then the next day or within that week, they're going to their doctor that they're paying for, whether through insurance or whatever, who tells them the same exact thing that she just told them 2 nights ago and stayed up, extra late for to talk them through this stuff. But yet they paid this doctor and got the free advice, from her. So I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And for years, I used to wonder that, because my mom was the same way. She's an attorney. And so every time you hear like a title, let me ask you something. And so my mom, I always thought she was just being mean or, being really whatever, because she would say, you can set up an appointment. I charge, this much for a consultation. I used to get so embarrassed. I'm like, Mom, why do you say that? I'm like, that's so embarrassing. But now I get it, being a therapist. Well, let me ask you something. So I have this situation. I'm like, you
Hmm.
know, but now my circle of friends, I can narrow it down to I have, you know, three, I can honestly say three best friends that I trust with my life. That are they there for me every single minute of the day? Not all the time. But would they give me the shirt off their back if something happens? Absolutely. Do I trust them with my life? Absolutely. If I sent them a 911 text like, hey, I really need to talk, would they answer their phone? Would they call me back? Absolutely. But those are my true friends, and I would rather have quality over quantity at this point. And I won't lie. I mean, it does get kind of lonely too because I'm like, okay, well, I don't have anything to do. I don't have anybody to go out with, or whatever, but what I want to. But at the same time, I'm just really grateful for the circle of friends that I have. And now you're included in my new circle too,
All right.
so it's just having that reliability that there's somebody there that has your back like I have your back, and we've been able to be fortunate to do that for each other as long as a couple other friends. And I'm recreating my new circle too because of the fact that I need support, with everything that I'm doing. You need support with everything you're doing. And when that's what we're here for is to build this network of supporters that we lift each other up. So when you're down, I pick you up. When I'm down, you help pick me up. When I need something, you're right there. When you need something, I'm right there. So and we bounce ideas off of each other like, hey, I didn't think about that. That's a good idea. So it's you kind of do have to take a step back. But as far as identifying, who your fake friends are, it's really hard. It's challenging because you really don't know until later on when you start seeing these signs of things like, this isn't working out so well anymore. Like you're not bringing anything to the table anymore. And it doesn't mean you don't have to be friends with them. It's just acknowledge their existence like you would in a workplace with a coworker you may not really care to, chat it up with, but you acknowledge their existence every day, like, hey, how you doing? But you're not going to stand there, hey Tim, so how was your weekend? Like, what did you do? Like, you don't care, you don't care.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have that kind of a friendship, but acknowledge, hey Tim, how are you? Good, great. Have a good day.
Yeah. I used to have, like, on Facebook, like, probably close to 1,500 friends, and I cut so many people out just because, well, 1, I didn't really know who they are for half of them, but I his damn throat. But even lately right now, I'm starting to get some more success, especially with my anti-bullying, and I like to talk about it, I like to share it, and maybe like 2, 3 people care about it. The only people that care about it is you now, my mother-in-law, and my wife. That's about it. Nobody cares about it. But if I post something, which I don't post anything negative about my life anymore. But when I see people post negative stuff about their life, like my favorite one is they'll check into the hospital and they'll say, I don't want to talk about it. But people will be like, oh, prayers for you, blah, 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 this. It's like people seem to like to, I don't want to say support. They like to engage with the negative more than they want to engage with a positive.
That's true.
And I just can't wrap my head around that.
No.
Besides posting kids pics, I post pics of my kids, you get like, a ton of likes. But you post a success, you get no likes.
Well,
Well, my three usual, and my mother-in-law likes everything I post, so it doesn't matter.
hey, that's good. You're a step ahead of a lot of people when you have a mother-in-law that likes you, let alone likes all your stuff on Facebook. So you're ahead of the game. You're doing something right there.
I guess.
But no, it's the same thing. Like I said, I dropped the magazine like a couple days ago and all over like all the social media stuff. And it's the same ones, which is like, you and, the ones that keep liking it. And I'm like, and then you look at the shares and you're right though. But if the minute I post something about, oh, I'm sick, I'm in the hospital, next thing you know, what's wrong? What's going on? Hope you're okay. Prayers. Like you're right. They do. They engage more in not necessarily the negative stuff, but not the success stuff. And I don't know why that is, other than a simple congratulations. Like sometimes I'll get that. Or I used to get it like if I post a picture, like the last event that I did and I posted pictures, I've got people coming, commenting, oh my gosh, you look beautiful, or, whatever. But I even noticed, like, even on that kind of stuff, people started dropping off. And the usual ones that were doing it in the beginning and supporting me aren't even commenting on it anymore, So I don't know if I guess from what my perspective is like they just get tired of seeing it, you know, um, and they almost maybe think like, it's all about you all the time. And it is. It is all
Well,
about
that's
me.
why yeah, that's your Facebook. That's your Facebook
Right.
or Instagram. That's what I'm not gonna post stuff about, I don't know, my neighbor, which I don't know, by the way.
But no, it's true. I think my daughter was the one who told me this that, she went to lunch with one of her friends. And, again, these kids, grew up with me and I was like their second mom. And I employed, a bunch of these kids along the way and groomed them and everything else. And one of her friends, she was really upset about because she said, yeah, she goes, I love your mom and everything. She's like, but everything is about her on Facebook and everything is where she's going and what she's doing. And it's like, we just really don't care. And I'm like, what else am I going to post? Like you say, what am I going to post about? Yeah, obviously, like I post other things on there. I just posted my nephew last night who's in the hospital trying to survive and he's newborn, so I post stuff like that.
Mm.
But it's like, yeah, I'm promoting something and that's what we're doing, when we're in the fields as entrepreneur, like unless you've got the big bucks, to hire somebody to do your big promos for you, that's what we do. We advertise our businesses, we advertise ourselves, we brand ourselves. So of course we're not there to look at me, look at my accomplishments. That's not it. It's hey, just want to make you aware, we got this event coming up. I have this going on and these are the things, kind of building your brand up. But people, it's perception and some people don't look at it like that. They think it's, oh, there she goes bragging about herself again. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I am the least person to brag about myself. I'm promoting myself. branding myself. I'm getting you guys awareness of what events are happening. And hey, check out the magazine. We're in this for a living, but again, it's perception of things. So
Why is it wrong to brag about yourself? Like, I guess, why is bragging even a bad thing? Because you go on Instagram and these people who have thousands, millions of followers, isn't that what they're doing?
that's funny that you said that because as a therapist, I'm promoting all the time self-worth. And we've been, if you think about this, we have been trained and programmed since days and cultures and generations way back to not talk about ourselves. It's that stigma of like, it's bragging if you're talking about yourself. Now, there's a difference when it's like you have self love and you're confident with yourself. Like, that's a difference than being arrogant about it. It crosses that, there's that fine line of arrogance and conceitedness, where it's like, I'm not going to walk around and go, yeah, well, I'm, I'm this and I have that. That's a different thing than saying, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm this, I'm that. And, I help people. So it's a difference, but it's because if you really think about it, like I said, we were programmed, don't talk about yourself. Like it's a conceitedness thing. It's an arrogant thing. And it's not. And that's why a lot of people don't have self love. They don't have self worth because we were brought up not being able to love ourselves like that. It was wrong if we thought positive about ourselves and talked about it. It just was perceived wrong for generations and years and years and years. And now, the stigmas change where now I'm promoting, no, you need to love yourself, be proud of yourself, empower yourself. And now all of a sudden, like everybody's trying to empower everybody where we should have been empowered from the time that we were growing up, and pushing our kids to say, no, be proud of you. You're unique. Like, absolutely. But like I said, it's like anything in life, when you cross this border of arrogance and conceitedness, then that's where people are kind of like, yeah, they don't want to hear about you all the time. They don't want to hear what you're doing because they don't have the same thing going on as you. So if their life isn't as great as, they want it to be, or they're in having a miserable life, misery loves company. They don't want to hear somebody else's success. They don't want to keep hearing about you all the time. So
Speaking of arrogance, I've met the past couple years quite a few celebrities. Some are pretty big, some are small, some are like in the middle. And I won't forget this one guy. And he looked at me. He goes, "Do you know who I am?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? Do you know who I am? I'm doing you a favor." And it's like, uh, what? What favor are you doing for me? I'm not going to get too far into detail about it, but and luckily, one of my other friends had the same experience with this person. So it just must be his ego, which he's he's not really a huge celebrity. But some of these celebrities I've met, they've have these huge egos. They're bigger than what they think they are, and they treat you like shit.
mhm.
And then I meet the real big celebrities, and they're the opposite. They're the kindest people you could ever meet. And it's like, I don't get it. So if you're not, I'm trying to figure out where I'm going with this. Where I'm going with this is people who haven't made it there fake like they made it there, and they're too good for you, which doesn't make any sense. And the people who have made it there are like the nicest people and the most giving people. I don't. It should be. You'd think it'd be flipped around.
No, it's that whole fake it till you make it kind of thing. And, me being on the red carpets and running, the circles with everybody, I see it all the time, all the time. I don't know how many times, like, and it's funny without like name dropping stuff, but there's one person in particular that my whole circle knows, we just laugh about it because every time, and we've been really, really, really good friends for years. So obviously I know his whole story and his background and whatever, but every single time I talk to him and see him, it's still, well, and I'm a producer, I'm a director, and this, that, and the other. And so finally one day I said, why do you keep giving me your resume? I said, we've been friends for so long. I know what you do, but why do you keep giving me your resume? It's because they have this speech that they've practiced and they're like carpet crashers. So they fake it till they make it and keep saying these speeches that's repetitively in their mind. So that way, at some point, somebody's going to hear it and the door is going to open for them. And now they've crossed over. But it's just that fake it till you make a mentality for those who are the major A-list celebrities. Like, you've got like Tom Hanks, who's never going to go, well, I'm an actor, I'm a producer, but like, we know who you are. They don't have to validate who they are because, you know, you know who they are. They're a household name. So they're the nicer ones because of the fact that they don't have that pressure on them to brand themselves and let you know who they are. You already know who they are. And if you don't know who they are, they don't care either because for one person who doesn't know who they are, there's 50 million who know who they are. And sometimes when you're that big, you just kind of want to feel normal again that you don't know who you are, So it's a catch 22 on that. Like I'm humble, I'm me, like I'm never gonna say, do you know who I am? I think I've only pulled that card once, but that wasn't a celebrity thing. That was I had to get into my school and I was president of the fine arts department and they were like, oh well, you need to do this and and I was like, all right, you know what? Do you know who I am? I'm the president of this. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. That's the only one time I had to pull it. But being in the industry, I see it all the time where people are just trying to make their mark, so they keep giving you their resume. And it's just out of habit, to promote themselves and keep saying the same repetitive steps. But on the flip side, think about this too. We're so quick to call everybody our friends. And what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, you and I were on a red carpet and we met that night, and we're talking. We could have been standing there talking for like 30 minutes and just really vibing and like had a lot of stuff in common. And then all of a sudden, our somebody else comes along like, oh yeah, this is my friend Tim. Tim, this is my friend so and so. Like, I just called you my friend and we just only known each other for 30 minutes. So we're so quick to just throw that word friend out there, you
It's like
know.
stepbrothers. Were you
Exactly.
stepbrothers?
Yes, yes, yes. But it's just like that. Like, oh, this is my friend. Like, we're not friends, we just met. We're acquaintances still. We're trying to get to know if we're friends or not yet. So
Now, when you started your TV show, Keeping It Real with Kim, you filmed it already, correct?
we filled filled we filmed we filmed a season of it, but then I took it a different direction, so we decided to not launch that first season because of the fact that it didn't have any relevance to the new direction that I was going with it, which is the one that's geared towards the generate I can't even speak now, which is geared towards a generation Z's that we're doing it. And so because we took it a different direction, my producer decided like, well, we're not going to launch it because it had no relevance. It just wouldn't have made sense. So, but yes, we did
So,
shoot the first season.
okay, so when you started your TV show, did your old friends you haven't heard from all of a sudden appear out of nowhere?
Oh yeah.
Like, did they come back, wanted to be come back? Hey, you're doing a TV show. What was that experience like?
That was a year of my birthday party that, when I started branding myself and like getting out there, that was the big birthday party we did that year. And that's why I said like everybody was, I mean, I'm talking like friends from like high school that I have on Facebook, but we don't even talk like that anymore, showed up for this. And I was like, wow, hey, wow, like, oh my God, you're here, because they heard about it. And so, yeah, oh no, they were coming out of the woodworks. And then it's funny because then we had another TV taping for the other reality show that I was doing, Keeping Up with Kim. And so when I would announce, like, oh, this is what we're doing, we're taping for this, these people were coming out that I'm not even friends with, or we're just associates, or maybe we went to a couple parties together, would show up. And it always threw me off. But then where are they at now? I don't even talk to those people anymore. So yeah, they come out when they knew I was doing stuff, or if I would post something with like a bigger name or something like that, they were like, "Oh my God, you got to take me on set with you." Just like when I did this last event, the Gary Sinise event that I went to, everybody was texting me like, "Hey, how come you didn't invite me to that event?" Like, we're not even friends like that. Why I don't invite you to any of my other events? Like, but why is it so big? You want to go to this one? And
Wait,
oh, I'll be your plus one. And
you were able to invite somebody? I didn't know about that.
no, I wasn't. That's why I thought it was funny. Like, they were all hitting me up to invite them. Like, I was invited. Like, I couldn't even bring a plus one. I was somebody else's plus. I was my PR's plus one. So, but no, it depends. And they kind of pick and choose, like on my Facebook when I say, oh, I'm attending this. That's why I don't know if you've noticed this, but I don't write it ahead of time now what I'm attending when it's a big event, because I get those ones that are on there saying, oh, take me, even though they're kidding or not, whatever. Like, you'll see like friends come out of the woodwork where it's like, we follow each other. So we know the same people, whether we know them or not, you see the same repetitive people on there. But then all of a sudden, when you post something big like that and you start seeing like, well, I've never seen this person comment on her stuff before. It's because, it's something bigger that,
That makes sense because I know the time this podcast comes out, this event's already been happening. It's already happened. I know you have a huge event coming up, well, that you're attending on Sunday, and you don't say a word about it on Facebook. Besides, you told me about it and who's going to be there. My jaw just dropped because I'm like totally jealous,
and
and
you knew the person and I didn't.
hopefully that person comes to your event because
Yeah.
that would just make my day. But
Yeah.
okay, that makes good sense. That makes good sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. No, and it is. Like I said, like I could post like film festivals that I'm going to, or, I'm supporting my friends who are producers, independent producers or independent actors. I post that up there and nobody cares. Nobody comments on it. They'll like it or not. But the minute I post, I went to that Gary Sinise thing, it was like, oh my gosh, like you didn't invite me to that event. Like, I don't invite you to the other stuff. And if I do invite you, you don't show up to those anyway. Because, like I said, I'm that type of person where if it's something that, I can bring people to and or it's an open event, and, like I have that event coming up on the 15th of December, that's a big, so, and I've been posting that, like, hey, everybody, we're going to be here, whatever. They don't come to it. But I guarantee you, I name drop some big names. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, I got to get tickets out. Oh, how can I get there? It's all about who's there and like it doesn't benefit them. If it's somebody they're interested in, they'll show up. But like for me, I mean, I'm just me. I'm still like trying to brand my own self, so nobody's dropping, ticket money to come see me. So I have to get bigger names in there, to get, my event going. And that's what I'm trying to do.
So, trying to recap this episode, discovering who fake friends are sounds like it's going to be more of a challenge. You got to kind of sit back, take a look. What have you done? What have they done? It seems kind of childish, though, too. Like, you didn't do this, yeah, but at the same time, I don't want to get used by somebody. But let's talk positive. How do you make a new friend? Like, is there a process to it? If you met somebody, like we became friends and it seemed like it just happened naturally.
Yes.
That was just like a natural thing. But you see somebody, you want to become their friend. How do you approach that person?
I think, well, and that answer is different for everybody. I mean, because not everybody's like me, and I can only speak from, for me. Like you and I, we hit it off because, we have the same common goals, we have the same drive, we have the same things that we're trying to reach. And so for you, I'm like, I love what you're doing. And I appreciated you having me on the show. And, you've had way bigger names that I'm not even a household name. I'm not even a neighbor name at all, to be honest. But the fact that you reached out and had me on your show, I appreciated that. So that's why for me, I was like, I want to reciprocate for you because I have this event that I feel goes in alignment with what you're trying to do. And same thing with our couple other mutual friends. And so I'm just a genuine person. If I feel, like I said, I'm always that one. If I can see somebody and help make them um have something beneficial. I don't think I even worded this right. But if I see somebody, or like for you, I'm like, hey, you could benefit from doing this. You help me out. I want to help you out. And again, it's about bringing each other up and supporting each other. And then it just kind of happened, where I've made this connection with other people, from other shows that I've done or whatever. And we're those, I'm not gonna say friends, we're those people where we acknowledge each other on Facebook or on social media, but I don't have these conversations. Or we had these conversations in the beginning and it lasted for like maybe like the momentum was like there for a couple of days and then they just kind of, flew off. And then it's like, if I'm having to chase a conversation all the time or I'm having to chase somebody,
Yeah.
then, eventually at some point I just kind of
I
give up.
I definitely experienced chasing a friend, and this person, I met so many people the past couple of years, and they all live out in Los Angeles or that area. And I try to connect with this person, once a month. Sometimes they respond, sometimes they don't. And I know that this person, from what I hear from other people, that they don't have a lot of friends to begin with. And I try to become their friends, but they don't. It's like they don't want they don't want to answer back or talk back. Do people just like naturally being alone and they don't want any friends?
I don't believe that. I think a lot of it, though, if you think about this, especially being entrepreneurs and being in a different stance than most of our friends, or whatever, they just might feel either inferior or intimidated, or they don't have anything to talk to us about. Like they don't have anything in common with us, where we have something in common to talk about all the time because we're in the same field. We're doing the same things. But if you take our friends that aren't in this industry, that just have a 9 to 5 job, that maybe even work at a grocery store, and we say, hey, how was your day? Like, what are they going to talk about? Oh, yeah, customers came through, whatever. So I don't think it's that they feel, whatever. I think it's they might feel like, well, we don't have anything in common anymore to talk about. And that happens with relationships too. Like, we start out one way, together. And then when one person reaches their goal and it goes a different direction and the other person stays stagnant, then it's like, what do you guys really have to talk about anymore? And so, and I found that
So
out.
so that really wouldn't be called. I mean, can that be called a fake friend? That person just has a goal with you, and once that's
No, I don't
met,
think it's a fake friend. I just think it's that they just realize you guys don't have a common interest anymore. And so if they see you have this glamorous life, and you're doing all this stuff, well, then they start feeling like inferior to like, well, I have nothing to talk to them about that. They feel not because of me. Like, I don't care if somebody worked at the grocery store and they were my friend and told me about the customers and stuff like that. I'm still that friend, but other people don't feel the same way, like, well, she's got this glamorous life with these celebrities and doing this stuff that my the stuff I do is just irrelevant to her, and she might think like I'm nobody or whatever. And so it's something within themselves that make them not want to respond back. Sometimes I'll be honest, like I feel like I'm that bad friend because I have friends who text me. And I think for me, what I've realized is they gave up, and it's not because I don't want to talk to them or anything. It's just I'm so busy. And like I have patients all day long. And then I have, things going on at night. And so I know a lot of my friends just gave up on me, thinking like, I've had one person tell me, "Oh, well, you forgot the little people." No, I didn't. I never forget that. It's just I can't text back if I'm, or you've texted me if I'm with somebody and
oh
I'll
yeah,
say, "Hey, I'm with a patient, can't talk." And I do the same thing, but and then I had a friend really get mad at me. You never respond back to me. You never call me back. You never do this because you don't understand my life. Like just because I'm done with a patient doesn't mean I don't have another one. Doesn't mean that I have to eat, and this for a fact that every day I'm like, I have patients from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., no break in between. So at 8 p.m., my first thought is, hey, not let me call everybody back, is I need to eat, So by that time, it's like 9 o'clock. And then by that time, I check out. So it's no offense to any of my friends, but I've gotten chewed out so many times from my friends that they just gave up. And now I just realized, thinking about this and saying this, there's a couple of them that don't even text me and talk to me anymore. And it makes me feel bad. And I hope they know. And I hope if you guys do watch this, that I'm talking about, like, it's not you guys. It's just my life is so busy. It doesn't mean I don't have time for you. It just means I don't even have time for myself. And when I do have that time for myself, I need to do something for myself, like eat, like sleep, and things like that. So it's like I said, it's made me feel like I'm a bad friend at sometimes too. But it's not that we're fake friends or we have fake friends. We just don't know what their life consists of and what they're going through. why they don't want to respond back or why they don't talk to us. So
Kimberly, thank you so much for coming back on my show. And I understand you have a pretty large event coming up. What's that event and who's attending?
So I have our Voices Heard Summit coming up February 23rd through the 25th. It's going to be in the city of Long Beach, California. And it's basically a weekend summit that goes along with the magazine issue that I just dropped, Voices Heard, which is centered around the Gen Zs and the challenges that they go through with bullying, depression, things like that. So they're going to be our major guest speakers there, along with we have Sean Kanan, who's Mike Barnes from Karate Kid and Cobra Kai. Also, Deacon Sharp from Bold and the Beautiful will be one of our featured guest speakers. We also have author, huge motivational speaker, Greg Reed, that's going to be there as well. Keith Hale, who's a big motivational speaker, and also has he's a CEO for I'mVulnerable.org. And we're just constantly adding like speakers and yourself. We've got Tim
Yeah,
Flynn that's going to be
who's not
coming
a
out for
speaker?
it. You got the best speaker right here in the house who's coming out for it.
I have a coach. I have a coach teaching me how to speak.
Yeah. But you
And
got a good
and
coach.
he's he's he is a hard ass.
Yeah. No, I work with them. I know, like you and I have that mutual, coach in common. So you just have them on a
But I love him. I
bigger
love him
aspect.
though.
We all love them. But yeah, so we have a lot of things going. We're constantly adding to the list. And again, the event is to get more resources out to the public and teach them self-love and teach them, what we were instilled to not talk about ourselves and not be proud of who we are. Empowerment. We've got to get the minds right of this generation because at the end of the day, like we're putting our hands in them when we get older. And so we just have to help get the resources out and make sure that they have the right healthy mental part of it. Or I don't know, I didn't word that right, but
Kim, I love it. I look forward to seeing you out there in a couple months at
me too.
the Energy Wellness Summit. I will post the link in the website to order tickets here in the show notes,
Thank you.
or you'll see it right here on YouTube, the YouTube link. Kimberly, thank you again for coming on. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you as well, Tim. Bye.